Okay. All right. Oh, let me fix my screen here. There we go. There we go. And I'll shut my door. I'll be right back. There we are. Oh. Okay, okay. And then let me refresh. There it is. Pop out the chat. Here we are. Hello, Ksorian and Rusif. Rusif. Hi, Seb. I don't know how the stream is going to go. I feel like I used to call streams things like designing the British unit roster. I called a stream that once, and I got like 30 or 40 people, and it was very engaged, and people really enjoyed that. But then anytime I give a stream an elusive name like feedback, people do not know what is going on. So maybe I should have given this a better name. Either way, doesn't matter too much. We'll see who comes in, and if we can't get enough people, because last time I did a stream I could only get 6 people, so it seems like we've already got more. But if we can get enough, I think like 20, then that should be enough to kind of go off of. Worst case scenario, I could even just have the stream running while I build a map or something, because you don't need a lot of people for that. That could just be kind of like a hangout, but yeah. Last stream I did, I was like on 8 o'clock on a Wednesday, so it was a little bit awkward. So hopefully, yeah, someone wrote, I can't believe it, EU dev stream, yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of fans in Europe and stuff, so that should be more, this should be a little easier. Okay, yeah, we got about 20 people. What I want to figure out are some of the achievement ideas. In fact, why don't I do a slight adjustment here? Let's do this, because I feel like people are more comfortable coming in if they know what they're actually getting into. So we'll call it achievement ideas, because that's kind of what I want to go over mainly today. And also, the precise amount of people doesn't really matter who's here. It just matters I have enough people chatting, because it's only annoying when there's a low amount of people, when I'll ask you guys your thoughts on something, and then there just aren't enough people able to give an opinion. So it's just nice to have some interaction, I suppose. So don't be basically just don't be afraid to talk if you want to say something. So the first thing is we have to figure out. I'll show you guys the progression system that I have planned, and you can let me know what you guys think of this. One moment. There we go. The first, I'm thinking that what we do, and we already have most of this built, actually. I'm just kind of confirming it. What we're doing is that we have nation levels, which is kind of like your rank. And so you can get promoted. And let me find this exact UI example, because we made, Nico made some UI that looked nice. I could probably, unless it's an art review, I could probably just search for his name. Let's see, from Nico. How's everybody doing on Saturday? What's everybody up to? There it is. Okay, so these are like the nation levels, and you unlock these just by playing the game. You will just slightly improve your rank with that nation. Good, just chilling, came home from a hike. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, and so the idea here is that all your nations, you start as a lieutenant level for each nation. And then as you play each nation, you rank up. And then with each rank up, it's very simple. You get a new elite unit every time you rank up. So, going from here to here, you might get the Totenkopf Hussars, right? And they're now in the reward pool. So what this means is you get a reward pool of elite units. And a reward pool means that anytime you start a campaign now, this is a form of meta progression, by the way, so this is not built into an individual playthrough. This is just like a meta progression that tracks you playing the Nation of Prussia as many times as you want to play it. It'll continue ranking you up. So it doesn't reset after each playthrough, basically. And so if I get promoted, I have access to the Totenkopf, and that means when I am given the choice between 3 regions to campaign in, 1, 2, 3 regions, and it lists the rewards, and the rewards include like a new doctrine for my army, as well as a new unit I get for my army. So there's 2 different rewards. Normally, the reward is a generic unit. It might say like, oh, you get a grenadier, or you get a hussar, or you get an artillery piece. Well, as I rank up one at a time, it's adding more elite units like Totenkopf, Itzenplitz, Musketeers, the Potsdam Giants type of units, and it just keeps adding more and more to the pool until you have 10 units in this reward pool. And then it uses those pools, uses that pool to choose from to pick a random set of 3 and assigns them, it adds them into the regions that you could possibly choose to campaign in. When you play a playthrough, you're going to fight through a series of a total of 9 regions. Or I'm sorry, 3 regions with 9 choices. So region 1, you might choose this one. Region 2, you might choose that one. Region 3, you might choose that one, right? So it could be Pomerania, Brandenburg, and Bohemia to win the campaign. We also plan on letting players continue on infinitely afterwards, but this is basically the idea that you just need to take 3 to technically win and get a score. And that score is like how well you did with that particular army and that particular nation. And of course, you're going to add more experience to progress your meta progression there. And so you have the opportunity pretty much to get 3 elite units per playthrough, because you can only campaign in 1, 2, 3 regions. And so the more you rank up, the more elite units you add to this reward pool. In today's German army, Fenreich comes before the lieutenant. Interestingly, Bloodraven, the artist, put this together. The names aren't precise. I haven't approved of them, but he based these names off of an 18th century Prussian ranking system that he found. So we found a documentation about how they did their ranks. So I hadn't even heard of what a colonel general is, but he based this off of what he found. So I still have to verify it myself because he's just the illustrator. But he always does a good job with the research, so I'm going to double check him. But thank you for the feedback, Bloodraven. Any mistakes you catch, it's good to just say anyways, and I'll double check. Anyways, does that piece of progression make sense to you guys, that you basically unlock more types of units that get thrown, like elite units that get thrown into a pool of rewards for taking regions? So if I unlock the Totenkopf because I ranked up, it doesn't mean I get the Totenkopf in my army. It means he's now available as a reward for taking a region. So if I took Pomerania, it'd do a nice little animation and say, hey, congratulations, you've taken the region. Totenkopf were added to your army because you selected that region to campaign in. So it basically just adds more types of rewards. So if anybody's played things like Slay the Spire, for example, in Slay the Spire, when you level up, you unlock more cards that are available in the next playthrough. So the idea here is, as you level up, you have more elite units that are available that you may find in a future playthrough. That's the idea there. So that's one level of the progression. And that's that. And then we also have another level of progression. By the way, this is pretty cool. This is the new main menu. Check this out. Oh, isn't that cool? This is pretty much finished. Sebastian animated this. This is the finished, polished menu. It is completely done. Yeah, but you can't use the last units you gained from the rewards because you already finished the playthrough. Kasorian, just to clarify as well, yeah, that works. You start with 20 normal units, and the higher level, more special units get added to the pool. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, and Kasorian, just to clarify, every playthrough you do, it picks a random set of units based in the pool, and so it could be the same units from playthrough to playthrough, or it could be different ones. Yeah. Ignore the screen pop there. That happens when I open and close Unity. So that's more of a Unity problem, not... Yeah, you can see that's just in the project. I don't know if Seb's still here, if that would actually end up in the Steam build, but we have to test that still. And if it does, it's an easy enough fix. We could just disable that. The smoke looks a little chunky. Yeah, I don't know. It could be slightly more transparent. So you could see the sky a little bit more behind it. Maybe that would look nicer. Anyways, we'll go to new campaign, and here's the new faction selection menu. It's a little intimidating at first, but I think, like, I based this off of FTL, and FTL doesn't have the best UI here. This looks a little intimidating, but once you play the game, you realize, like, it has everything you need. I know what my crew is, I know what the weapons on board are, I know what my ships are, I can choose between them, I have subtypes of ships. So the idea here, and by the way, if you were in the last stream, we actually talked about changing this UI, and so we ended up doing it. Now, it's not completely finished. There are elements here, like, see how tiny the green text is? It's too small, and the colors don't pop out. And so, for example, as well, notice this stratagem in the bottom right. There's like a big blurry badge, and then 2 cross muskets. That blurry badge shouldn't be there, for example. There's like a lot of little things. And then also, the Cantonist levy's description doesn't fully take up... Look, there's all this dead space underneath it. That should probably be extended. So there's all these little things to polish, but the idea here is that it's generally going to look like this. And so you pick your nation. You can swap between nations seamlessly, like that, right? And then what's even cooler, and many of you guys probably know this who have been following the development of the game, is that you can choose between different armies, like so. So it's kind of like FTL. You can choose different ships, right? But I can also choose variations of those ships. So I have this one ship for the cruiser, but I can choose between 3 versions of it, right? So as Prussia, I can select Prussia, but I can select 3 different versions of Prussia that have different starting resources, that have different starting items, and have a different starting stratagem. So for example, the Old Corps get the Soldier King's Legacy, heavy combat or heavy infantry combat effectiveness plus 20%. That's very good. That just basically means all of its stats get boosted by 20%, which is really, really nice. And but your regiment experience gain is minus 10%. So the guys are a lot slower to level up. But once you do level them up and you get the ball rolling, you have like a really good late game with heavy infantry. So it takes a little while to get there, but it's a good late game investment. Freikorps are a lot different. They get their prisoner rewards doubled. So every time you take prisoners, you can conscript higher amounts of them. But your reservists, basically your manpower, desert from your army every day. That doesn't really happen to the other nations unless you run out of food. But even if you have food, the Freikorps just lose. They're just constantly bleeding men. So it's almost like you're just like consuming armies on the battle map, and you're just bleeding them. It's kind of like I think if you played Warhammer, like the Greenskin, how they they do some infighting if you're not fighting battles enough. So that's kind of the idea there a little bit. And Bamboo, I see you retracted the message, but I'll clarify anyways. Bamboo said, isn't 10% too much? I think he just misread, but I might as well clarify it for you guys as well. 10 reservists is not 10%. It's just 10 men that desert each day, which actually isn't too much. If you've got thousands of manpower, it's just a slow bleed. I'm actually going to change this and probably say 10 reservists desert per regiment fielded. So if I had 20 regiments, that's going to scale up with the army, versus if I only had 1 regiment, that's going to scale down. I'm also going to change a few things. I think you guys are going to love this. Some of you from the Discord probably already saw me post about this, but there is a new mechanic we're working on, and I just want to quickly show it off. So I'll jump in as the Cossacks real quick. And I just want to show you a new mechanic that got worked on. And we are not adding new mechanics in. This is just like one of the last things I wanted to put in. Yeah, D. Panzerjäger, you're saying the Prussians forcefully pressed in the Saxons. I think we are representing that as well with Prussia by making it so that you gain reservists every time you stop at a settlement. So every time, just by virtue of going to a settlement... Oh, damn, am I having lag problems? Let me know if I cut out for you guys, because my computer's been running for days, and I'm hoping... Ah, man, that sucks. I should have restarted my computer. I'll just go back to main menu and see if I can avert this. Yeah, I've had the project running, and I have a computer problem where I just cannot have something up like a game or Unity for multiple days, and then my GPU just has a big problem. Let me see if I can just restart. Damn, I don't want to restart my computer, but you guys hear me okay? Because it's I just have a GPU problem with this computer. No one else has this. It's just me, which is really annoying. And I should have restarted my computer. Well, anyways, I'll show you what I was going to talk about that I wanted to show you in game. But basically, what you can do now, there's a new mechanic where you have army stances on campaign. So you have raiding, you have forced march, you have pillaging, you have training, and you have foraging. So they can each help you rebalance your manas if you have way too much money or too little ammunition or too little food or whatever the case is. You can kind of rebalance your manas a bit. But the cool thing I think is raiding, which introduces like a brand new mechanic, and it allows you to basically raid any settlement and a health bar will appear. By the way, the user interface is not done for this yet, so ignore that the user interface looks placeholder here. This green bar is placeholder. But this will slowly chip away as you raid the village, and as you're raiding, you're gaining money. And also it adds a condition to it. So even if you don't fully raid the settlement all the way to completion, if I leave halfway through a raid, you will still end up giving this settlement a permanent condition called recently looted, and it makes all the goods more expensive there. So if you go raid it and then try to go talk to the locals, they're not going to like you very much. If you fully raid it and you bring that health bar all the way to 0, then the settlement will be destroyed and you cannot go back to it. It's just gone. So you could theoretically go around raiding and looting and pillaging and just destroying settlements. And the cool thing is we're changing how some of the armies work to reflect the new army stances. So I'm going to open up campaign data and show you guys something that's really cool. And that is under the stratagem system, everything in orange is getting changed, orange and yellow. So, for example, the Russian national stratagem now makes it so raiding doubles the amount of food that you steal. But your negative as playing as Russia is your food consumption's higher. So Russia, being so far away from their homeland, they've got messy logistics, but as long as they're raiding, they're able to make up for their food deficit. So Russia naturally is geared slightly more toward raiding, which would make sense because Russia's not really within the frame as much of the campaign. You're mainly in Germany, so they don't care if they're raiding the locals, and they just need to get more provisions, basically, and supplies. To play into this even further, when you play as the Cossacks, raiding works twice as quick. So you are raiding villages, you're destroying them 2 times as quickly, 200% faster, and stealing double the amount of food. So if you're playing Cossacks, you could legitimately play in a way where you might be burning down every settlement across the map, which is really cool. That it's that particular composition that would play like that. Whereas if I'm playing as Prussia, it's raiding is going to be a little bit slower, it's going to be a little messier, it may not be the most efficient. But playing as Russia is kind of a different playstyle in that way. The negative for the Cossacks is you lose money every day that you're not raiding or using forced march. So as Russia, you need to be sprinting across the map and destroying things. Otherwise, you lose money, as if to imply that the organizational structure and financial management of the Cossacks is not very good or stable, and that they get restless if they're not actively burning things down and raiding. So you have a full, like, irregular guerrilla force kind of behavior with the steppe raiders, which is fun. I've also changed the British to also lean into the stance system. So I like in games where you have some play styles where you really can lean into quality, but there were no army compositions that necessarily... Well, there are army compositions that are quality-based, like that Prussian Old Corps that I was showing off, the one with the heavy infantry focus, right? But heavy infantry doesn't necessarily mean I have to play into quality. And it also had a negative experience gain for their regiments. So you actually are slower to gain experience. But I kind of wanted an army that was all about, like, min-maxing experience gain, trying to gain as much experience as humanly possible, and to create, like, the most elite badass army, right? And now that we have a drilling, look at this at the bottom. See how it has the 3 chevrons? That is the drill stance. So you can park your army and train it if you want to. And it spends ammunition, but it gains experience. So if you have spare ammunition, you've got way too much ammo, or you go to a shop and you're like, hey, they've got a discount on ammunition. I'm going to pick up extra ammo because this town specifically has a discount on it. And then I'm going to use that ammo to train and drill my troops, and they're going to practice firing. And with the British all being about quality, their drilling stance doubles the unit XP gain. And what's kind of cool about this too is the national stratagem as Britain means they have less manpower available to purchase, or less reservists, but they gain a subsidy of extra cash. So I can use that cash to go to a village to turn it into spare ammunition, not have to worry about refilling my reserves because I can use that ammunition to drill and use my limited army to gain higher experience and create a high quality force. So that's a cool way that you can play off of the stance system and this particular army build to do something unique that other armies aren't necessarily capable of. Because as Britain, I really like the idea of having this like super professional small force. And I think you kind of get to do that now. And as Russia, you get this like really agile raiding force, and you get to do that now. And then as the Freikorps, as we've talked about previously, you get 200% prisoner rewards. So you get to grind out and find little armies to pick off. And you want to make sure you take out any army on the battlefield, even the small ones, or on the campaign map. You want to just knock them out and steal their men, essentially. So there's some really cool ways that you can play into these different armies. And that leads me to my next talking point. Everything that I talked about kind of goes around. So I'm not just trying to go on a rant about or ramble on about non-related subjects here. I'm going to tie this back to progression. So let's go all the way back to where we started here. And this brings me to the second half of progression, which is how do you unlock each army? And we had this conversation a long time ago. Does anybody else remember? Months ago, maybe you guys were here for some of those streams where we talked about how do you unlock new armies. And we didn't necessarily settle on an answer, but today I really want to finalize that because we have the framework set up, but in the coming weeks, we're going to have this programmed in and fully finalized. So I want to make sure we absolutely like the design here. And next week, I'm probably going to finish the design for the exact methods by which you unlock armies. And the week after that, we're probably going to code them in. Okay, so the next progression here is unlocking armies. So we talked about how you can unlock elite units, and the way you do that is by leveling up, and you'll gain like the Totenkopf, or you'll gain the Itzenplitz Musketeers. Every time you level up your nation and promote, you gain a new elite unit that gets added into the pool that you could possibly find while campaigning. So if you unlock the Totenkopf, and I campaign in Pomerania, if I complete all my side objectives in Pomerania, I'll get awarded this unit. So these can be found in your campaigns and future runs by completing side objectives. That's how these work. And the more you rank up, the more variety you get on each subsequent run. So again, for anybody who's new, who didn't hear me go on this rant, or I keep saying rant, but who wasn't here while I explained this, in Slay the Spire, for example, that's another game where every time you level up, you unlock new cards that can appear in a future playthrough. That's kind of how this system works. Whereas unlocking armies, this isn't a matter of like, hey, this thing might appear in the future. This is a matter of, hey, you've unlocked new content to play with right now. You can go play with this. So this is a more direct kind of progression system. It's less up to chance. And so how does a player unlock armies? And Thomas says, hey, that reminds me of Balatro. Balatro is like one of the most famous now roguelike games. A lot of roguelike games utilize that system of progression. So it is very popular, and we're taking inspiration from how a lot of other roguelikes, including, I've never played Balatro, but I assume they fall into those kind of roguelike systems. And so that's a good comparison to make, Thomas. Okay, so how do you unlock armies? I've been back and forth on this. Someone threw out the idea, who said it? They said, I have to say my perspective on this game completely changed. It was supposed to be a battle system, and the code, it has gotten a lot bigger. Someone else mentioned at some point that perhaps you should unlock armies by leveling up, but I want to explore one other idea here. Let's see if I can open up the project. I can. Look, it's all working again because I reset it. Okay, so we have the Cantonist levies, the Freikorps, and the Old Corps as Prussia. As Austria, we get the Crownland, then the border troops, and then the Hungarians. As Russia, we get the feudals, then the observation, and then the Cossacks. As the British, we get the British expedition, the Hanoverians, and the Hessians. And then as the French, we get the Lower Rhine, the Light Corps, and then the House of the King. So each nation gets 3 armies to play as. That's 15 different armies that are completely unique. Unique items, different starting units, and a different, completely unique stratagem that you can't get any other way. So for example, as France, I could not get the assault en masse with any other nation or any other composition. That assault en masse stratagem is completely unique to the Lower Rhine forces, and it gives me 1.5% melee damage per regiment in my army. So the faster I can get a bigger army, the more melee damage I can do. Okay, So let's talk about how to get these different armies. I was thinking that the first army is unlocked for every nation at the start. This way, you're not blocking a player from playing Britain because they haven't done some arbitrary achievement, right? So when you first boot up the game, you have the Cantonist levies. That's the first army, right? You also have the Crownland recruits. That's the first army is Austria. You have the feudal levies, the British expedition, and the Lower Rhine forces. You have all of those. However, you don't have the Freikorps or the Old Corps. Those need to be unlocked. And so how do we unlock those? One option in the most direct way would just be to level up the country. But I feel like maybe that's a bit boring. And I was thinking maybe we could tie. I also had another idea where you could enable difficulty modifiers. So if you beat the game with some kind of difficulty modifier, you unlock the Freikorps or the Old Corps. But I don't want to lock armies behind difficulty, because if a player's not comfortable making the game really hard for themselves, I don't want them to miss out on that content. So my thing that I've been leaning on are achievements. You have to get an achievement of playing a particular way or style, and then you get one of these armies. And also, maybe those achievements could be earned by playing as other nations. So I could be playing the Cantonists and unlock an achievement that gives me a Russian army. I think that's fine, because that would mean I don't have to grind the game. Like if I want to unlock a French army, but I'm really comfortable with Prussia, I'd be able to do that under most circumstances. So I like the idea of achievements. So to unlock new armies, complete achievements which change your playstyle / approach to the game. And this means every run you've got something new that you're trying out. And I really like that idea. That's what I'm personally leaning on. So to list out the armies that you can possibly unlock, how could I do this easily? Suppose we could do this. We have the Freikorps. I take a screenshot. Let's start with Prussia. And what we'll do is, okay, first thing we should do are, let's list achievement ideas. So first of all, what are some generic ideas that aren't necessarily tied to a composition that you could do for an achievement? And let's say some of these these don't all have to unlock army compositions. They could just be fun achievements, right? And the ones that we like, we could nominate to use in order to unlock the compositions. But let's start just by brainstorming. So some that I came up with that are really simple. These are just really simple ones, are beat the game using X composition. That's nice and easy. Have X amount of a unit type in your camp at once. That's also a pretty simple one. Like have 10 cavalry at once. Then you're like, oh, I guess I'm doing a cavalry-oriented playthrough. And then if you do that, if you achieve that and you unlock all those units or purchase them, then you unlock an achievement or perhaps even a composition as a result. Have X amount of X items equipped. So this could say have 10 buckshot units with buckshot equipped at once. So you're like, oh, I'm doing a short-range shotgunner playthrough, for example. Another one could be get a unit to 100 of a certain stat. So get a unit to 100 morale or 100 accuracy or 100 melee stat, for example, which is maxed out. Win a battle only using X. I don't know what that would be, but just an idea. Have a camp with all officers at max level. So have a fully professional officer corps. Then you could also do have a camp with 20 units at maximum veterancy level as well. So everybody's like fully elite. And now I'm going to read some of your guys' ideas too. Let me shrink these so we've got plenty of space. You guys have some ideas here. What if conditions is unlocked at least one elite unit? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Gearkit. For the unlock, Cossacks should be made fire maneuver. Indoctrinated, have 5 generals called Tom. Yeah, I don't think we're doing that. Don't lose a single battle. We could do that. Yeah, don't win a campaign without losing a single battle. You could also, if you want an easier version, is conquer a region without losing a single battle. We could also say complete every encounter in a... You could also say complete every encounter, win a campaign, and complete every encounter within each region. And then an easier one of that would be conquer a single region, while, I guess, and complete every encounter within it. That's kind of the idea there. Some of these you guys won't know because you haven't played the game yet, but basically they're like little encounters you can find on a campaign map, and they're really spread out. So if you manage to actually do every encounter before finishing the region, I think that would actually be a pretty good achievement. Win a battle without firing a single shot. That's cool because you can turn your guys off of fire at will and then just, yeah, do that. That would be kind of neat. That's cool, Xorian. Drill your units for 20 days in a row. That's interesting. So you'd have to try to beat a bunch of enemy armies, get really far away, and then drill before an enemy could interrupt you. We could do X days in a row. Yeah. Burn down every settlement in every region. Or win a campaign. We'll say win a campaign and burn down every settlement in every region. And an easier version of that would be burn down every settlement in one region. Basically, that indentation is like an easier version of that, so you don't have to do that in every single one. Okay, who messaged me? I'm going to go on Do Not Disturb just in case. Oh, I got pinged by my own poll. Conquer a region with only cavalry. You know, Gerkit, I think it'd be not very fun to only play with cavalry because all you would be able to do is mass charge, and I feel like that's not going to be a fun way to play. So I had that same idea, but I feel like I don't want to encourage players to do that because I don't think it's very fun. I think it's similar to like all artillery. It wouldn't be that fun to play with 20 artillery or something because you're just missing really crucial parts of the game in that way. So I'm a little unsure about that. You could argue the same thing about win a battle without firing a single shot. You kind of have a similar problem with that, but at least you could use infantry and cavalry in tandem to achieve that, possibly. Conquer a region with X of a certain unit type. Outflank, I think I already have that. I have X amount of men in your camp at once. We could also say conquer a region with X amount of unit types. So you could say with 10 artillery units, we could do something like that as well. Destroy another artillery unit while using your own artillery. That's a cool idea. Destroy another artillery unit while using your own artillery unit. Humankind says, like to back up my previous idea, so the player has to balance close combat and high casualties. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Thomas says, get X amount of kills with X unit type in a battle. That's cool. So get X amount of kills. Let's stop there for one of them. Get X amount of kills. And then we'll do get X amount of kills with X unit type in battle. You want an idea where you have to take a lot of casualties. I don't know if I like I don't like achievements that encourage you to play in a losing way in order to achieve something. I've always kind of been against that a little bit. Not losing officers. That's a cool idea. So win a campaign without losing a single officer. That's a cool idea. Okay, so these are more like generic achievements. We can come up with a few more. We could say win a battle without losing more than 10% of your men. That could be really hard. That could be kind of cool. How about this? Win a campaign without maybe like the max amount of units is 20. What if someone had to beat the campaign with only using a certain amount of units? Because you can do, I'll show you real quick. We have 5 division slots that you can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you could do 4 units per division. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 20 units total. What if it said you had to beat the whole campaign without using, like with only using 3 divisions or something like that? That would be kind of cool. So you had to just like make the most use out of these. That would be kind of neat. We'll say win a campaign only using up to 3 divisions. I think that's neat. Kill X, destroy X amount of armies in a region. Quartz, that's a decent one because we do have armies that can continuously spawn. So if you really stayed in a region to try to rack up as many destructions of armies as possible, that'd be cool. Win a campaign with only the starting units? Steven, that's way too hard. No way. You could say conquer the first region with only the starting units. You could say that. That's an option. You could also say win. Let me think. Win a battle without any of your men losing morale. Be the campaign in one sitting. Maybe win a battle with no things equipped. I don't know about that one. Win the game without upgrade. Oh, that's interesting. Win a campaign without upgrading a single unit. Yeah. So you could level them up in veterancy, but you can't. That's a great idea. Because you would, if you recruited a recruit, you can't upgrade him to a musketeer. You'd have to disband him and hire a new unit. So that's interesting. Oh yeah, acquire X amount of money. That would be cool. So you're basically turning into a salesman. You find all the towns that have positive sale conditions, and you sell as much as you possibly can to try to get as much money as you can to win that, which would be kind of cool. Take some reference from Battle Brothers achievement, says Matanza. We can look at that next. I want to fill up these two columns with your guys' ideas. Then we can look at Battle Brothers if we want, and maybe even FTL. And then with that ultimate compilation of achievements, we can all think about which achievements we should tie to certain compositions. I think that would be cool. We could also say win a campaign and complete every side objective within each region. Because every region gets 2 side objectives. So you'd have to do 2, 4, 6. You'd have to do all of them always and win a full campaign. That would be kind of neat. Win a campaign without losing X% of your army. That might be hard to track. Because you can constantly refill troops. So we could do one, win a campaign without replenishing any unit. That would be kind of insane. Because if a unit gets too weak, you would just have to fire it and hire a new one. You couldn't replenish. Meaning the manpower would be kind of useless to you. So you wouldn't get any manpower. You try to get as much money as you can and just buy fresh regiments all the time. That would be kind of neat. Capture X amount of troops. We don't really have a system for capturing, so I don't really think that would work as much. What else? We could say win a campaign and visit and have visited every settlement along the way. What else could we say? We could also do win a campaign exclusively in Forced March. And then we could maybe say conquer region exclusively in Forced March. Which could be kind of funny. If you're in Forced March, you lose manpower a little bit. Troops desert because you're pushing them to exhaustion. So I think that'd be kind of interesting. Can't upgrade units. Steven, someone already came up with that idea. It's a good one, though. Someone already suggested it. I wrote it down. I'll check the achievement channel as well. Try not to take too much challenge. Force March. Terrain achievements. Win a campaign in X amount of days. Oh, that's cool. Win a campaign in X amount of days. Or, like, conquer a region in X amount of days. Fight 5 battles in a forest. That one's kind of cool. I don't know if going in a forest really does anything in the game, though, right now. So I don't know if it would be that interesting to play that way. I kind of like achievements. Like, let me also say this, too. It'd be cool if there were achievements that made you play in a certain way. Like, I was playing FTL, and I wrote down an achievement it wanted me to do. It wanted me to use a cloak ship, a ship that had stealth, and it said, avoid 9 points of damage within a single cloak. Meaning, basically, you can order your ship to cloak every 10 seconds, and a cloak lasts, let's say, 5 seconds. So I have to time it so that 9 incoming shots are all simultaneously coming in, time it perfectly, and block with my stealth all at once, and then avoid all of that. So in order to do this, I need to upgrade. I need to put a lot of points into stealth so that this lasts long enough that all those shots have time to come in. So I need to have the maxed out stealth ship, meaning all my money is going into that. So that playthrough is almost defined by the idea of playing heavily into stealth. So it'd be cool if you could make a certain playthrough defined by certain things. I think we've already done that to some extent, like this. Burn down every settlement in a region. So you would orient yourself toward raiding. Yeah. And there are some like that here. Like have a camp with all officers at max level, so you'd orient yourself towards like shopping for the best officers and giving them lots of experience. There could, of course, be... Yeah, John, I don't know if we'll have the infinite mode on launch, so I don't know if we should do an achievement regarding that. Let me think if there's any other ideas we could use to fill out like 2 more. Win a battle 3 times in a row in winter. I don't know. I don't know if are there any more ideas you guys have? Or are we happy with this for now? Let's look at some Battle Brothers ideas. Battle Brothers achievements. Let's look at the rare ones. There's just like defeating certain units, craft an item, get a bunch of renown. You could also say like reach max level with a country. We could say with all countries. And then you could do another one that says reach max level with 1 nation. This one has a certain amount of money, relations. Have a company of 20. Yeah, we could just have 20 units, but that's a cool idea. Break an enemy unit in 1 volley. Break a full strength unit in 1 volley. That would be cool. Grenadier, I already wrote that idea down. Win a campaign without ever reinforcing units' manpower. That's a cool idea. I wrote it down. How about anything what would be like cool to achieve in a battle? Let me think. Maybe a certain item. What kind of items would be interesting to use? Maybe grenades. Equip all units with... Equip 20 units with grenades. Well, we could say maybe 15 units with grenades. That would be kind of funny. Are you able to dismount dragoons? We used to be able to. We just temporarily disabled that. I will probably re-add that as a post-release update because there were some animation problems. Like, what happens if you dismount? Where do the horses go? Do you leave them behind? Are there handlers with the horses? Okay, when you order them to go remount, do the horses come to them? Do they come to them? How do you do an animation for that? Do you have like sword fighting animations? What if the dismounted cavalry are using swords? You need dismounted sword fighting animations, and there are a lot of like issues with that, so we just put that on hold for now. Oh, that's a cool idea. Equip 10 units with pets. Yeah. That's a good idea. Equip all units with wine. Well, we'll say equip 20 units with wine. That's funny. With wine and cheese. I like that. That's a fun idea. I like this one a lot. Okay, let's pause here. Let's grab this. And let's pop that under achievement ideas here. And the next thing that we want to do... Oh, hold on. Have X amount of musicians. That's a good one too. Musicians. If you guys have any more ideas, go in the Discord and go ahead and put them in here. So I would suggest putting that musician idea in here. I'll do it for you. I'll just say have X amount of musicians equipped. That's another good one. Okay. So the next question that we want to solve is going to be regarding the how to unlock each army. So we have the Cantonists. Let's do Prussia first. Do you guys like the idea of unlocking armies through achievements? I don't think we have to make them too hard, but I think it would be fun to unlock them through achievements. I don't know about you guys. I know people are mixed on this, but I like games that have progression. I like goals to work toward. And ultimately, you don't have to unlock any army compositions. You could play as any nation and use any units you want as those nations and never have to touch them. So, for example, you might be frustrated to learn as Britain that you don't have any Hessian troops, right? And I have to do an achievement to get the Hessians. Well, that's not fun. How come I can't use Hessians? But if you play as this composition, the moment you start the campaign, you can recruit Hessians and you can play a Hessian army. It just doesn't, you just don't start off with them. So all this is all the army composition is doing is defining what you start the game with. You can orient yourself to model your, like as Russia, I can play with Cossacks with any army. It's just that the Cossack one, this one starts off with lots of Cossacks and gives me horses and things. So anyways, I like that personally. So here's the old core. So the main Prussian composition is called the Cantonist recruits, Cantonist levies. And the national bonus for Prussia, Prussia's national bonus is officers gain a free promotion when recruited. And the Cantonist levies bonus is that you get 500 manpower anytime you visit a settlement for the first time. So if there are 20 settlements on the map, you get 500 manpower for each settlement that you go to, only for the first time that you go there. Now, what I think is important is this. If we think, and you guys tell me what, you give me your opinion on this. You might think that the Freikorps, they're all about prisoners, right? So you want to create an achievement that has to do with prisoners in order to get them. But if that achievement to get prisoners is opposite to the playstyle that you'd be using as the Cantonists, you're basically forcing somebody to play as this army in a way that it's not designed for, that's not fun, in order to get an army that does that mechanic. Does that make sense? So a better example might be, hey, for the Cossacks, they're all about raiding. So let's make you play as a nation and do a ton of raiding. But if that nation isn't oriented toward raiding, you're making them do a playstyle that doesn't work for them in order to get that composition. Now, the one thing that helps alleviate that is if the achievements can be earned with anything. So if you, for example, say, to unlock the Cossacks, raid 20 settlements, right? And let's say, for example, Russia, and this is actually not true, but let's just pretend Russia wasn't good at raiding. You'd be able to play as Prussia, pick the Freikorps who might be better at raiding, and then unlock the Cossacks. I think that is fun. I think that is fine to do it that way. Or do you think that you have to play as Prussia? Like, for example, as Prussia, complete XYZ achievement to unlock this composition. Or do you think it should just say complete XYZ challenge as any nation to unlock this composition? Do you think it should be tied to the faction? Or, as you know, if I'm playing as the Freikorps, could I unlock a French composition by completing some challenge? What do you think? Steven says, I think achievements to unlock an army should be a normal achievement, but done by the nation of the army. And Humankind says, I think it should be any nation. Yeah, I'll put a poll. What do you guys think? To unlock a nation, to unlock an army composition, do you need to play as that same nation for the achievement? Yes, play as Prussia in order to unlock. Yes, play Prussia to unlock Prussian armies, basically. I'll just say yes or no. any nation to unlock any composition, or yes, same nation to unlock comp. You guys can kind of let me know what you think. Blood Raven says, I would argue for sorting the achievements into tiers. And after getting an achievement in a certain tier, you get to choose the army you want to unlock. I don't know if I like that, Blood Raven, that you get to choose it, because I think it's fun to... I think it could be fun to be like, oh, I'm doing a lot of raiding, and then I get a raiding composition maybe as a reward for that, and it ties it thematically together. But... And I think having to build UI out for that to like choose which armies to unlock or to spend an in-game currency, I don't know if I'd want to do that. I'm not sure. It's kind of weird to play other nations in order to progress a nation. I think tied to the factions more rewarding, as you get to learn the nation because you can only unlock the regiments that way. It's kind of mixed right now. I think people are leaning on having to play as that nation to unlock the next ones, which is fair. I'll give you guys pros and cons real quick. Like, let's say I wanted to unlock the Hungarian, or the Grenzer troops. I want to get the Grenzers, who are really good at light infantry. And let's say that the standard Austrian composition is good at artillery. I would imagine you'd want to say, to unlock Grenzers, you know, get a unit to 100 accuracy. But as the regular Crownland recruits, they're bad at accuracy. And this is the only way to progress forward. There's only one composition you can play as. So basically, this is now implying, as the Crownland recruits, get a unit with 100 accuracy, which makes it maybe a little bit tough. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't make it tough, or maybe it does. If you could play as any nation, I could go, oh, to get the Grenzers, I could just play with these guys. Or, you know what, as Britain has a bonus toward drilling accuracy. I don't know. I'm just making that up. It doesn't actually have that. But I might want to go play as that composition strategically, because it may allow me to expedite that achievement. Or I can, if I like the theme, I can jump and stay as Austria and keep playing as Austria, and then get a unit to 100 accuracy and unlock it. So if you could do the achievement, so able to do the achievement as any nation, the pro is that I can strategically choose an army or a nation that allows me to get that achievement more efficiently. The negative is that it's less thematic to unlock Cossacks by playing as Britain, for example. That may feel a little weird. So that's kind of the pro and con of it. I can completely understand this, that thematically it feels inappropriate, but this just allows more flexibility. So that really just depends on how difficult we want to make the achievement to get. Like, you may end up really wanting to play the Cossacks, but you don't care about these other armies, or you don't like them. So you may want to allow someone to play as the Hungarians because they have cavalry in order to get the Cossacks or something. Or maybe that feels weird. Maybe that's weird that you're using two nations that are opposite each other to unlock something. So those are kind of the pros and cons there. I don't mean you should get the achievements. I think it should be every nation because it allows more diversity. What if players can choose which nations they wanted? Which nation's army wanted to unlock? I'm not sure what you mean by this. I think we should use the same nation. Yeah. Okay. I think most people agree with that. So let's go with the same nation idea. I like that too. Okay. So the Freikorps are all about the bonus is toward gaining prisoners, conscripting prisoners yields double the result. So instead of 200 manpower, you'd get 400. That's the bonus. Ah, crap. Are you kidding me? Oh, okay. I put it on a separate layer so I can darken it. There. I want to make it more readable. Okay, and the negative is that troops desert every day. Low on manpower, basically. The negative of Prussia as a whole is that artillery gains less experience because they look down on the artillery corps. The bonus is that officers gain free promotions on recruitment, which is very good. And then for the Cantonists, they just get a bonus without a drawback. So the bonus for the Cantonists, which is your first army composition you have, is that you get 500 free reservists when you visit a settlement for the first time. Okay, so we have to ask ourselves, oh, and then let me just label this one too. The bonus here is heavy infantry gets plus 20% combat effectiveness. And the negative is that troops gain less experience from combat. Because it's the old core, they're like hard to learn new tricks, basically. Okay, so what we have to determine is how do you unlock this one? And how do you unlock this one? And then for the other nations, we can go a little faster because we've spent a while on this, but that's because we're debating right now. Like, do you have to play as the same nation? But it seems like you guys like the idea of having to play the same nation. But we have to consider we're not necessarily the entire audience. Most players just want the easier route. You can still get the Freikorps as the... Yeah, Humankind does make a good point, by the way, just for you guys to consider this. If you can unlock... you can't teach the old core no tricks. If you can unlock a new composition as any country, you can play the same country. So you can play Prussia to unlock Prussian armies. But it also allows people to also play French to unlock a Prussian army. But you can do whatever you want. So if you want to stay as the same nation, you can stay on theme. But let's go with the idea now, because you guys seem to like it, that you have to play that nation to progress that nation. Which would make it... Here's another pro and con real quick before we proceed. If you have to play as the same nation to unlock new armies within that country, you have to play the game more to get all the armies, which is good for me because that means my players get more playtime. But for you guys, it means a little more grind. And the reason is if you don't... here, hold on. Play as same nation. So you have to play as the same nation or play as any nation. If you can play as any nation, I can jump in with the French, like the French Rhine army, and I could raid a bunch of villages and recruit 20 units with musicians, let's say. And by achieving multiple achievements, I just unlocked the old core, and I just unlocked the Cossacks in one French playthrough. Whereas if you have to play the same nation, if I'm the French Rhine army, I can only achieve one thing. I can only achieve the next achievement in line, which would be like recruit 20 troops with, I don't know, infantry only or something. And then if I wanted the Cossack one, I have to end my playthrough and then start a new one as Russia. So you have to go kind of somewhat linearly. That being said, I could unlock this one first. I could unlock the one on the right and then unlock the one on the left, or I could unlock the one on the left and then the one on the right. But basically, it all has to be contained. So if I want to get other achievements, I can't get those other achievements unless I change country. So it just makes it a little more rigid. You can't knock out multiple armies in one playthrough, which maybe is a good thing, right? Or maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know. But that's for you guys to kind of have an opinion on. Maybe we should keep the nation levels as they're the grindy part and make the armies a little easier to get. Yeah, maybe that's maybe that should be the case. It will be regardless the case that the elite units you unlock have to be unlocked by that country. So if you want the Totenkopf, you have to play Prussia and level them up, which is the grindy kind of part. So yeah, what are you guys thinking? I'll do one more poll. And if you like the idea of having to play that nation, vote for that. But I just want to do one more poll to make sure, now that you guys have considered all the pros and cons, like to unlock a new army, should you have to play as that same nation? And say yes, play same nation to unlock, or no, play as any nation to unlock. You guys can decide. If you disagree with me and you're like, no, I really like that to unlock the Freikorps, you have to find a way as Prussia to complete that achievement, totally vote for that. But if you think, hey, I just want to play whatever I want, and if I find a goal or a cool achievement I want to work toward, I want to be able to play any nation to get that achievement and get the reward for it, then you would vote for this. Both of those are completely valid. So don't let me sway your opinion, but I just wanted you guys to know every pro and con of either decision before voting for that. So if you have the same opinion, vote for the same thing. If you change your opinion, you can change it, but that's completely up to you guys, what you think. Ludi says, I think turn-based would be better than RTS for controlling large armies. Well, the cool thing, Ludi, two things that I think are helpful. Number one, I do not like a lot of RTS games. And I assume you're in a similar boat. And the reason I don't like them is because they're so fast, so based on reaction times, I feel like I can't keep up, especially on multiplayer. So I have to just not play those often. And the ones I do play, I'm pausing constantly. Like I've played Warhammer Total War, and I play the battles in slow motion, which is not fun for me. I'd rather just play turn-based at that point, right? But in our game, the battles are very slow and realistic. Like if you fight 4 regiments versus another 4, just 4 units on each side, it might take you 15 minutes to win that battle. Because the units take a long time to move, they might get tired, there's a lot of things to consider, the terrain might slow them down. So it is a very methodical kind of game that is not, you will not win a battle based on reaction time. You just can't. You reacting faster doesn't mean anything. It's about positioning, bringing the right tools, preparing correctly. That's how you win a battle. The other thing too is you can go into pause mode or slow motion in this game. I don't know if we've added slow motion yet, but you can pause and still issue orders. So you can play and issue all the orders and prepare in pause mode. But what's it called? It is not, you will not win a battle based on reaction time at all. It is a very methodical game from what I've played. I can show that, I can show combat. I don't know if I've taken any good videos recently, but if you're worried that you won't be able to react fast enough, that will not be a concern at all. If anything, I'm a little worried players might be a little bored by how slow the battles can be sometimes, because the troops march very slowly and you have to be just very methodical when you play. I don't know if this example is going to be good. Maybe this video shows a little bit of it, but it is definitely not a reaction time kind of game. Let's see. I don't know if this one shows combat off though, but you can just see how slow the units are moving and how little damage they do. Look at the cannons firing. No one even really took much damage from that. And then they fire. And then look at the enemy health bar. If I just like screenshot the enemy health bar from that volley, they lost this much health. It's not like someone fires and does that much damage and then you know, you looked over for 1 second and you lost half your army. So I think if you are, as I'm getting older too, I'm not liking games that are super based on reaction times, and I can't play those. I physically can't play Total War Warhammer, the newest Total War games, because they're too fast for me. So yeah. Yeah, Strat Gaming Guides, you can definitely speed it up. Like I get bored sometimes by the initial deployment, so I'll set my guys up in pause mode and I'll fast forward for them to get to the battle, and then I will kind of play from there. But the other thing I realized is I spent hours and hours building all these maps. I built these huge maps, and the aspect ratio of the maps kind of looked like this. And what happened is that both armies would deploy, and you would spend slowly marching, and you'd finally get there, and every time I'd start a battle, I'm on fast forward mode. I'm double speeding the game. And I was thinking, why does it have to be like that? Why do you have to make it so both forces are just really far away from each other? And I did all this detail, building out the maps and doing roads and making it look nice, only for everyone to just double speed through it. So I deleted all of these maps and redid them. I deleted them for other reasons too, because I have new assets and improved like graphics, and we have a new camera and all these new things. But here, the new aspect ratio I did was more like this. So now you kind of spawn within a distance where you can't shoot each other. Like, your range is like that, so you can't shoot each other at the start. But you don't really fast forward at the beginning. And then furthermore, as you move up, you come to engage, and you've got lots of room to flank and move around and pin each other and outflank and make breakthroughs. Whereas here you had a little less flanking opportunity, but it just took a really long time to get to the battlefield. So this actually makes it quicker to make these maps because I shaved off all of this and just added on a little bit of extra flanking room. And that ended up speeding up my maps by like 1.5 times the time it takes to make a map because I just shaved off. Let's actually say 33% of the time to take a map is shaved off. So I'm able to make more maps, and they're more fun to play on. So, yeah. And you don't have to fast forward the whole battle. Okay, so the other thing I did too, which is kind of interesting, is recruits. I made them really bad at first, so they have low accuracy and low morale. But when you have recruits against recruits at the start of the game, and you have like 3 units versus 3, a battle takes like 15 minutes because nobody can hit anything. And I would watch someone play for the first time, and they're like fast forwarding and bored. And so what I did is I made these guys, I lowered the morale more and increased their accuracy higher. So now a recruit goes into battle, they fire at each other, and immediately they fire and somebody just runs away and breaks. So now this battle is 5 minutes long. But as you then get bigger armies of like 10 units, and they're better trained, so now they're regulars, or we'll say line infantry instead of recruits, now that battle might take 20 minutes because they're more accurate, but they have much higher morale, so they're going to stand and fight, and there's more of them. And so I kind of made it so the opening battles are shorter and the later battles are longer, which sounds intuitive, but the initial balancing of the game meant that the recruits were so bad against each other that they're just like throwing like wet noodles back and forth, and they can't actually break each other. But now they're actually a little more deadly, but the morale is so low that even if you brought a deadly recruit against the line infantry, they actually can do more kills than they were previously, but the moment the line infantry fires back, it just runs, which I do like that. Okay. So they're like 2 glass cannons firing at each other. I think the longer maps are interesting if there's something worth rushing toward. Yeah, I would say strat gaming, I didn't, like, I'll show you an example of a map. I didn't fully cut down the length, but I'll show you how they look now. This is a good example of one. Here is a top-down view of one of my maps. You spawn back here in green, and the enemy spawns back here. You still have, like, I might want to get my guys in column, move them up the road, and jump onto this hill. Or I might want to run over here and then form like a line up like that. Or I may want to try to go through the farmland and then go on the oblique and then form up along the hedges. And then I've got room to flank here and here. And so this is the actual, like, this is a real map that's in-game. It's not as if it's like this. Like, that wouldn't be very fun because you'd be both spawning right in range. And it's also not like it's like this where you've got no room to flank. So it is wider than it is long, but it still gives you like, yeah, it gives you strategic depth without being too long. My old maps, by comparison, looked more like that. And this just took way longer to do, and it was just, I don't know. It took longer to make, and you're just fast forwarding. Like, how is this more fun to get to the hill if it just takes longer and you're on fast forward? Compared to this, it's still fun to rush the hill, but it just removes some of the downtime, I think. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get back to the subject at hand. So, can you show us some of the new maps? I can, but my computer would need to reset first, so we can do that at the very end. So let's determine what achievements we want. Let's actually get into the meat of things. We'll try to move a little quicker because we've been getting slowed down. As the Fry Corps, what are some ideas? And we wrote some down under achievement ideas here. We wrote a bunch down. So to unlock the Fry Corps, they're all about taking prisoners. So the one thing we have to consider is in order to get the Fry Corps, you're likely playing as these guys. So it also needs to work with this bonus where you're getting free reservists. So we shouldn't, like, say, as the Fry Corps to unlock them, win a campaign without having any manpower or any reservists. But that wouldn't be fun if the whole bonus here is that you get reservists, right? So you don't want to make these opposite one another because then it's not fun to play to get these guys. So that's got to be taken into account. I'm thinking to get the Fry Corps, you would like, if this is the starting, this is like the most default nation, I would actually be open to, like, this sounds really lame, but like win a campaign as the Cantonist recruits. Or even alternatively, um, win, or like take the first region, take one region as the Cantonist recruits. That might be really boring, but I'm just coming up with like some vanilla ideas before we think of something that works. But this is like the default first time player playing the game. When I play roguelikes, oftentimes it gives me a new ship or a new character just by winning just once. So I have something, even if I fail. Sometimes they'll say like get to the halfway point. Like there's a new game called Void War, and it says, hey, just get to region 4 and you'll get the next ship. And that's not winning the game, actually. I've lost a few times, but once you get to region 4, it gives you a reason to continue because you unlock something. So that's maybe a little basic, but yeah. More interestingly, and because Prussia doesn't have to be the starting nation, because some people may want to play as France, and that's totally fine, we could come up with something a little more interesting. So we could say, let's think. It could be, I'm just reading my list here. Win a campaign with 10 Cantonists. What could you do with the Cantonists that would be interesting? You could say get one regiment to 100 reload skill to unlock it, because the Cantonists are really fast. They actually do have good reload skill, so that actually somewhat pertains to what the Freikorps are. But the idea of the Cantonists is, look, they start with ramrods and they have fast reload skill already, so you would be able to easily get that with the Cantonists. And the Freikorps are really fast and have fast reload, so it actually relates to them as well. So that's a cool one that relates. It's a little, maybe it's not too, maybe it's not too tied to the Freikorps, since the Freikorps are about prisoners. So we can come up with another one pertaining to prisoners. For the later achievements, win a campaign without using a single artillery regiment. Yeah, I want to, I have some stuff like that written down already. I can note that one in particular, though, like win a campaign without any artillery. What are prisoners known for while also being achievable by the Cantonists? Yeah, that's kind of the question, humankind. Someone could also go backward, though. They could unlock this one first, the old corps, and then go and get the Freikorps. You can kind of do it in any order. The only thing that's guaranteed is that you have the Cantonists first. We could say conscript prisoners from 10 armies in one region. So basically, every time you win a battle, you have prisoner options. You can conscript, exchange, or ransom. Conscript gives you manpower. And the Cantonists already get manpower. Look, they get reservists or manpower. That's an interchangeable term. They already get manpower. So you're double playing into manpower by getting a whole ton of extra reservists, whilst simultaneously playing in a way that gets you prepared for the idea of playing as the Freikorps, who are more prisoner based. So this could say, I like this, conscript prisoners from 10 armies in one region. So you have to fight a lot of armies. You can't just fly through it. And I could change that number. It could be 5 armies. It could be whatever we want. So I could even do X. I can figure that part out later. Conscript prisoners from X armies all in one region. So like 5 armies or something. I feel like that would be a cool idea there. By the way, I might just finish Prussia and do the rest of these on my own, because I'm getting tired. Honestly, I've streamed for how long now? Over an hour. Unless you guys want to do the other nations too, we can do them as well. Maybe there's a faster way of doing this. Maybe I could just list all the armies, and then you guys can just just throw ideas at me, and I can just put them all next to each of the nations. And then when I leave the stream, I can decide my favorite ones. Would you guys prefer that? That might be a little quicker. So we could do Freikorps, who are known for prisoners. Let me move these up, make some room. So we'll have Prussia, where you have the Freikorps and the Old Corps. And they're known for heavy infantry. is their bonus. You have France, who have the light corps, and they're known for range. Light inf range. And then you have the House of the King, and they are known for cavalry, morale. Then we have Austria. I think what we'll do for the rest of the stream is you guys just generate some ideas for these, and then I'll go off stream and spend the next hour like really refining them. But I just want to collect some of your ideas just because it's fun, because you guys come up with some cool stuff sometimes. Austria, we have the Grenzers, which is light inf accuracy, I think. Let me check. Yeah. So light corps are kind of like the Grenzers, but they fire further, but the Grenzers fire more accurately. So there's a little bit of overlap, maybe too much overlap, but let me see. I used to have it as campaign visibility plus 15%. I could change it back. This is what it used to be. It used to be... Here, hold on. This is a good opinion for you guys to tell me what you think. This used to be campaign visibility plus 15%, and as the negative, infantry charge damage is lower because I wanted them to focus on light troops. See us, Rat Gaming. But would you guys prefer they get like some kind of campaign bonus? The idea is they have the eyes of the army, so they're like scouting ahead, and they're able to kind of detect where enemy forces are. I'm wondering if we could just give them a campaign bonus, because having extra visibility allows you to spot where the encounters are, allows you to spot where enemy armies are. It does give you some advantage in that way. It could also be tied to a stance. Like we have foraging, so the light corps could be good at foraging, but I feel like that might be a bit boring. Here's the thing though, foraging gives you plus 15% visibility. So if this army already had plus 20% visibility, if you forage as the light corps, you'd have 35% extra visibility, meaning these guys would be very good at foraging, and that could put them into that playstyle, which could be neat. So maybe we could try that. But would it be boring? Like if you played as the House of the King and you got like 50% cavalry morale, is it boring to play the light corps and you get campaign visibility 20%? Maybe if it was a very high amount, like 25% visibility, so you really can feel like you can see things far away. And then you can spot where the encounters are, where the villages are, you can find things easier. We could go even higher. It could be like a 50% buff to visibility, and then you go into a campaign, you immediately notice all your surroundings are lit up. So you can spot any army that's coming for you and kind of choose your battles. Or I could keep it as infantry range. Like right now I have it light infantry range plus 15%. And French Charleville muskets already come with a range bonus. So this way you'd be able to like pick off targets really far away, which maybe is more fun. I don't know which of those is more distinctive. I think the only issue I have is that Austria, their Grenzers, have another light infantry bonus, which is light infantry accuracy plus 20%, and then an infantry melee damage reduction. Whereas this one's also getting a light infantry bonus and also a melee damage reduction. So they feel like they overlap maybe a little too much. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. I feel like the visibility thing could be kind of cool, especially if you stack it with a certain stance. It would also let you go into forced march without as much. Yeah, let's do campaign visibility plus 25%. Or even 30. Let's try that. Because the cool thing is, if you go on... if you do forced march, you get a speed boost by 20%, right? But your view cone is decreased by 15%. Whereas if you're light corps, you have 35%, so you actually can still see really far ahead of you, even while you're in forced march. So I feel like that would let you fly around the campaign map with good visibility, maybe. But I don't know if that's boring or not. I'll let you guys vote. there. I'll let you guys vote on that. We could also do something else if you guys have any other ideas, but we just can't do anything advanced. Like Luddy said, having forward skirmishers, we can't really do like a new mechanic where you can put your skirmishers like ahead. So we couldn't do like a mechanical change for them. It would just have to modify or improve something else that exists. It could be a bonus toward forced march, potentially. Since they're scouting. It could say like, well, I don't know. I don't know how that would work. I guess you could say like, forced march doesn't decrease vision and boost your speed by 25%. I don't know. I'm not sure. Seems like most people are leaning on the campaign visibility. Let's try that for now. It is cool that you can see further ahead, because there's also another stratagem that you could potentially find called Vanguard Forces, which boosts your campaign visibility by another 25%. So 25% plus 35%. So you could see just much, much further away. And that could be kind of cool. And finding things is important. If you can't find where the enemy armies are located, or find where the encounters are, or find a village to restock at, then you can be stuck. So that could actually be somewhat beneficial. Let's see. Cavalry charge damage. That one's different. Is there another one that just does charge damage? Is Gearkit here? How about you get the Freikorps or other army for embracing the starter army playstyle? So it's more about mastering the army you have unlocked from the start. What do you mean by that? How about you get the Freikorps for embracing the starting army's playstyle? Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it should try to do both, because my idea was to make it so you conscript a ton of prisoners, which gives you manpower. The starting army here gets a bunch of manpower. So if you play massively into tons of manpower, you get lots of reservists, so you never have problems with manpower. You always have big, full armies. It simultaneously leans into the Cantonists while also leaning into what the Freikorps are about, which is about conscripting prisoners. So you can kind of knock out both. But I know what you mean that it's not really about mastering this one. I think the issue, though, is that if you can unlock this as this nation by playing as any army, you could unlock the old corps and then unlock the Freikorps as the old corps. So how do you make it about mastering the Cantonist recruits if you're able to take the old corps and then get the Freikorps, unless you make it so you have to unlock them in order? But that might be too restrictive, in my opinion. The other option is that you could explicitly write, as the Cantonists, visit every settlement in every region and win a campaign. And if you do that, then you unlock the Freikorps. And then as the Freikorps, it could say, as the Freikorps, conscript 10,000 prisoners within a playthrough and win a campaign. And then as the old corps, there's nothing really to unlock, but maybe there could just be an achievement for fun. And the achievement could just say to have get 20 heavy infantry simultaneously. I'm not sure. How do we go about that? Because yeah, once you get the old corps, there's nothing that they can unlock. So there's not really an achievement that gets to be tied to them, unfortunately, which might not be very good. Gerkit, do you think if you play as the Hungarians, you should just get a slight charge buff, or get a big charge buff, but only to cavalry? So it's basically a big cavalry charge buff or a small everything charge buff. What would you rather have for Hungary? What better represents them, do you think? I feel like maybe a big cavalry charge buff is good because the infantry already has good charge damage, so you get to use both. Whereas if it's a really tiny bonus for both, it may not be as fun, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, big cavalry one. Okay, I agree with that. Gosh, I'm getting tired because I've just been streaming so long. I think my battery is like out. But thank you guys for giving me all the feedback. You know, I'll leave this stream up, and you guys can leave comments if you have any more suggestions for achievements or things tied to certain armies, and then we can kind of discuss that next time. So I'll head out for now. I'm just getting a little tired. If you haven't already, you can join the Discord, which is here, and then I have a achievement channel that I made right here. But I'll head out for now. I'll see you guys next time, and you can go